There are some Kenyans, over 90% whom associate with ODM party. They, since the day Ruto was sworn in, any slight hardship, they are overjoyed, and they overtly say that the hardship should multiply tenfold. A good example was the removal of subsidies in both petroleum and maize. You'd see them shouting, saying that Kenyans should suffer more because they refused to choose the better candidate. This in English is called benevolent dictatorship. In democracy, it is better to have a poor person like President Trump, who is freely chosen, than have a benevolent dictatorship. Kenyans were given options. They were 4, but in reality they were 2. Now, if your candidate was better than the one who was chosen, wish them well. Wish them the way you would have wished your candidate to have won. This thing about wishing the country. There was one who even went to an extent of saying that he would have wished for maize flour to be at 500 shillings and above. There are others who even keep on shouting, didn't Ruto say that once he lets down his Bible, the maize flour will go to 70 shillings. For maize to be 70 shillings or even free, we have to consider a lot of things from an economist point of view. One, there is the farmer in Kitale who is a taxpayer or even a voter, just like the consumer in Nairobi who goes for Mujengo. Any price change, we have to consider him. If that farmer farmed and used and the only level amount he can get from whatever he used, fertilizer, labor, everything, it goes up to 4,000. Now, if you have to tell people, if you have to tell a farmer that you'll sell his maize at 70 shillings, it means that a Kenyan will suffer. A Kenyan will suffer because the maize has been placed at 70. Now, there are many ways of solving that. One, that the government buys the maize at 5,000 and sells it at 70 shillings, or the government reduces the price of fertilizer and seed, so that the farmer who is in Kitale today has used 4,000 to get a sack. But if you reduce the price of fertilizer, the price of seed, maybe he'll use 2,000. And that way, if you tell him not to sell maize at 5,000, he'll accept. But this involves the government bailing out the people. Can the government bail? If the government has funds, it can even buy the maize from the Kitale farmer at 6,000 and then sell it at 70. But Kenya is not a welfare state. A welfare state is a state where, okay, we are headed there. We are headed there because when I was working with the police in Wajir, just within Wajir County, we discovered at least 5 oil wells at a place called Biamado, another place called Abakore, another place called somewhere near Griftu. Those are 3 wells within Wajir. Then in Isiolo there were 2. And if you look at the lap set, you will discover that the lap set goes in a certain way. It is deliberately placed along where we have oil wells. It's placed that way up to Lodwa. It is not by coincidence, it is deliberate. So the day that we will start producing, mass producing, because let's say the government needs 3 trillion shillings for its budget, 3 trillion shillings. But when we raise the 3 trillion, 1 trillion goes to pay taxes, to pay debts in international bodies. Then another trillion. So you find, but if we can get instead of 3 trillion, if our oil can be sold at 7 trillion, then you'll find that instead of paying 1 trillion our debts, we can be paying maybe double that. And you'll find a lot of things that the government can even decide that no Kenyan will pay any tax, and more people will be employed. You find that in Kenya, 1 classroom has 120. So we can build more classrooms, more hospital, we can stock the hospital so well, and employ so many teachers, so many doctors, and so on, because we will have oil. But without oil, anybody, apart from Jesus, if he comes or she comes to rule our country, we will still have those problems. So it is unfair for the ODM people to start praying day and night that prices of essential goods rises up, so that Kenyans are punished for electing the wrong person. As I said, and finishing saying, it is better to choose the worst person like the way Trump was chosen than choose the best benevolent dictator.